Hello and welcome to another instructional video. Today we have a very short video simply because this is quite a simple game, but this is Suburbia. It's the closest thing I think you're going to get to in terms of SimCity the board game. It's really enjoyable, it's very easy to play, so without further ado let's get stuck into the instructional. Okay, so here we have a two-player setup for Suburbia. We have our victory point markers over here. Victory points in this game is population, so how big your town is or suburb is. Two little cheat sheet boards. I've put these plus ×2 markers on, which we'll come to in a little bit. The boards themselves are set up with the suburbs, a park and a heavy factory. That's your starting setup. We'll go through the iconography on each of the cards in just a second. And then over to the left we have the sort of open board. Here we have the money. These are extra factories, suburbs and parks which we can buy. They are limited in quantity. There's only one per player, so there's only two. Here we have some goals which will provide us with extra victory points, and here we have the tiles that we're going to use. There's 15A, 15B. The C ones are a bit special. You have 9 at the top, and then within the next 6 you have a token which represents that we're going to have the last round. And then on the bottom you have 4. So it's 4, 6 with the last round marker in, and then 9. So we're sort of at 19. I'm not quite sure why they have the 4 at the end. I think you only need 2 for a 2-player game. But it doesn't really matter. Our player boards, we have a little track representing income and reputation. We have 2 goals, and we should each start with 15 money. Now that's quite a lot of money. Don't burn through it all straight away or you will end up struggling in the game. The game is of 3 parts, I would say. A is building up income. B is making that judgment call as to when to turn your income generating sort of city into a VEEP population generating city, and then part C is just about cramming in as many population as possible. So let's just have a little look at the goals. So we've been given 2, and there are 2 out on the board. So the 2 out on the board are plus 15 victory points for the most yellow buildings and plus 10 victory points for the highest reputation. So if we can claim those, if I have the most yellow buildings, then I will get an extra 15 victory points. That seems like a lot. Well, it kind of is. So that's probably my biggest criticism of the game, is that you can be in a really strong position and then you can massively fall behind if people have got really good goals compared to you. You have a little drafting mechanism with your goals. We have 2, and we've got plus 15 people for the fewest industrial buildings and plus 20 people for the fewest lakes. So you can see this directly conflicts with the open goal, so there's no real point in us keeping that, so we'll discard that one. We're only allowed to keep one anyway, and that's my goal. It's hidden and it's only for me, and that is my goal at the end of the game. As for the tiles, you can see that our income, which is the circle, is at 0, and our reputation, which if you like is your income for victory points. This gives you money, and this increases your victory points every turn. So we go up by 1 every turn. How do we get to that? Well, the suburbs tile, let's just zoom in. Suburbs tile just gives us 2 victory points, and that's actually the reason if we go over to the victory point marker we are on 2 rather than on 0. So that's because of our suburbs tile. After that we have the community park. Now circle is income and square is reputation. So here you can see that the community park costs us 1 money. But then it says plus 1 reputation for every adjacent industrial, commercial or residential building. So that means that we're down to -1 money, and you can get to minus, and plus 2, if I just zoom out ever so slightly, because we've got 2 adjacent tiles, plus 2 reputation. But we're not quite done there. We have the factory as well, so that's plus 1 money, but for every adjacent civic or residential building we are losing 1 reputation. So you can see that overall we have a net of 0 money, -1 +1, and +1 reputation, +2, -1. And it's at that point we can start the game. So what we do is we zoom out and we populate this row. If anyone's played the Manhattan Project, you'll sort of appreciate this. You populate it with buildings going up, and people will pay more as you go further up the buildings. Oh, that's a spare, sorry. So, going through what we have. We have lots of commercial buildings. Actually, we've got quite a lot of repeats. Right, so you can see along the top we have different things. If we want to get the better ones, or the more new ones, then we have to pay up to a +10 surcharge. And that's a lot of money. You're not going to be doing that. So let's just have a look. So we have the convenience store. You can see that gives us +1 money. Mobile home community, and that's +6 money. Business supply store, +1 money. Fancy restaurant. Now this one's cool. You can see it says +3 money, but for every restaurant built after this one, we see it go down by 1. So you could, if 4 restaurants came out, end up losing money in your fancy restaurant because it's old and it's tired and it's ugly and no one wants to go there anymore. They'd much rather go to Mackie D's. Another convenience store. A business supply store. This is cool. +1 money, and for every office tile we get an extra money. And that's not just a one-off, that's a permanent thing, and that's not just for me. So if Purple builds a really nice office block, well, they need supplies, so as soon as they build it, I'm going to get more money because I own the business supply store. Waterfront Realty gives us extra 2 money every time we build a lake, which won't mean anything to us right now. So, as the first player, there is a massive first player marker. It's worth mentioning. This thing is a first player marker. It never changes. So it's like the most pointless piece in the world, but never mind. As the first player, I have to decide which thing to buy, and I'm going to buy the cheaper business supply store. So it costs me 8. And you can also see that I took it from the +2 place, so I have to pay a total of 10 money. Now I can choose where to place it, and this is where the spatial aspect of the game comes in. If I place it here, that would be a pretty good place, because you can see I would get 1 extra reputation because I've placed it next to the lovely park. And I don't have the minus reputation because that's only versus civic buildings and residential, and the commercial sector has no problems being next to that heavy factory. So I go up 1 on the reputation track, and then I go up 1 on the income track, and now I'm at 1 income and 2 reputation. So that means that with the people were talking about my awesome business supply store, and they're saying, oh, this is a city I want to be a part of, so my population goes up to 4 because of my 2 reputation. It jumps up 2, and then I get 1 more money. Actually, I believe the money should happen first, so sorry, money first, and then I go up my reputation. And that's the game. What will happen is that these will come down, and we will populate it with a new one. So, oh, we've got another, oh, this time it's a fast food restaurant. Okay, so that gives us +1 money, but it also gives us loads more people for each adjacent suburbs, or each adjacent green building. So that means that we've got a way to get easy victory points. There's a few other aspects that the game is sort of, we could miss if we just do it on 1 turn. The first of all is now I'm down to 6 money, which kind of sucks. So I need money, and I'm only getting 1 a turn, and this is definitely going to happen. Okay, you will always run out of money. What I can do, instead of placing a tile, I can choose to build a lake. So what you do in essence is you choose a tile along here, and maybe I think that that fancy restaurant is too nice for someone else to take. So I'll actually end up paying 2 money just so I can deny someone that building. And then I flip it over, and this is a lake, and you can see +2 for each adjacent tile essentially. So I can put it there, on my board, and that would get me 2, 4, 6 money. And additionally, if I later on place a tile here, that will get me another 2 money for placing a tile. But you've got to remember that my goal is to have the least number of lakes, so perhaps I want to focus more on avoiding that if at all possible. So that would be one thing, to get a lake, and obviously it takes a tile out of the game and then you move down because you're using the back of the tile to do it. The other thing is sometimes you don't have any of the tiles that you want, and I mean even in that first example 10 money is quite a lot. Alternatively, I could take one of these tiles, which are one of the basic starting tiles, so I could take the suburbs or the community park centre or the heavy factory. So say I took the heavy factory, and then I could lay the heavy factory on my tile, and you can see that this one, unlike the office supply store, it only cost me 3, 4 plus 1 money. And if I build my factories close to each other, they don't hurt each other, and that only cost me 3. As always, whenever you take a go, you have to remove a tile. So if I removed a 0 tile, it would only cost me 3. If I removed the +2 tile, then actually that factory would cost me 5. The very last thing you can do, and this is probably something which you won't do until sort of closer to the end of the game, is let's say that I'm sitting here, and as time's gone by, I've built up my lovely centre, and I'm up with 5 reputation and 3 money now. What I could do, as an alternative to laying a tile, I could double the effects of a tile. So I'd have to pay the money for that tile again. Parks are very good to do this on. I would have to pay extra if I'd have to discard one of the tiles out for selection, as always. And if I wanted to deny someone a good one, I'd have to pay more. So I could end up paying, I don't know, 6 to 12 or whatever. Now what would happen is the effects of this tile would happen again. So if we just zoom out just ever so slightly, obviously first thing is my -1 money would cause me to go down 1 again. But then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 adjacent tiles which give me reputation. So that would ping my reputation up to 10 a turn, which is really, really cool. For 4 money, I've gone up to 10 reputation. The final thing is, if that was to happen, let's say my reputation was here, then you'll notice there are these red bars on the board. Whenever you cross a red bar, your reputation and your money goes down by 1 to represent your logistics of costing you lots. So here we're at 21, we'd get up 10 for 31, and I've actually crossed 2 red bars there. So at the end of my turn, I would then fall down to 0 money and 8 reputation, which is quite bad, as you obviously will start running out of money. So in essence, that's Suburbia. It's a very simple game in reality. You are just literally laying tiles. The tiles interact beautifully with everyone else. So you saw it with the office, you saw it to a certain extent with the fancy restaurant. If someone else spots that I've spent 9 money on a fancy restaurant, they could definitely go and build the cheaper fast food restaurant, knowing that it's making me worse off and them better off. It really does get that feeling of a city across, which is really, really nice. So that's Suburbia. I hope it enlightens some people in terms of how to play. Enjoy.